Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Mike with Voltage & Company. Welcome back to a series that is going to be taking an in-depth look into some features that I think are hidden gems. So these are going to be features that you might not know exist, or maybe you're not taking full advantage of, or maybe you're just here because you're interested to see what some of these synthesizers can do. So the goal is to spotlight a handful of performance features that can be really powerful and expressive and just help you to generate some new creative ideas. So today's video, we're going to be talking about combining the Arpeggiator and the Sequencer on the Argon8 and Cobalt8 series synthesizers. So we'll take a look at how to program Arps and how to write those Arps into sequences, how to use the Arp to drive the sequencer using a function called Gate Transpose. And that playback mode is going to allow us to create some complex generative and just generally evolving sequences. So today I'm going to be demonstrating this on an Argon8, but the same principles apply to Cobalt8 as well, since they share the same arpeggiator and sequencer functions. So let's dive right in, and I have the app up here, and I'm going to be doing a lot of this work in the app today just for ease of use, so you can kind of see what's going on a little bit better. This is the arpeggio that I had programmed in to the beginning, and this is all the data that I was using. And I was using this Gate Transpose mode here down in the lower left to inject a little bit of complexity into it. So let's actually just start from scratch. I'm going to go into the preset manager, into the sequence bank, and I will just initialize a brand new sequence. And now we are starting from scratch. So I'm going to change this to step sequence. I am going to use 16 steps here. And for now, we're going to let the clock drive this. So let's focus now on the hardware a little bit. And I'm going to show you how to program in some arpeggios. So this is the one that I was using in the very beginning. And to reset the arp that you program in, all you have to do is hold down that button and press one note. And now it will function just like a normal arpeggiator would. So that's pretty cool, but let's actually write in our own ARP patterns. And you can do that by holding down this button that is aptly named ARP. And I can just program in some notes that I want to play back. So that works. You can also do this and add rests as well by holding down this button and clicking the button right next to it to enter rests. So let's try that with rests. So now let's program in just an ARP that I'm going to use to write to a sequence. So I'll hold down this ARP again and we'll just try it one more time. So that'll work for what we're trying to do today. And to do this in the app, up here at the top you have play and record, and down here on the hardware itself we are going to just hit record, and it's going to ask me now to input the steps that I want. So I'll actually bring this up a little bit bigger so you can see that. So it's asking me to plug in some notes here, and instead of actually just typing all these in, since that ARP actually evolves that pattern a little bit, I want to just use the ARP to put all that information in there automatically for me. So if I hold down the ARP, it will just start writing all those notes to the sequence. So we'll stop record, and we will come back here to the app view, and I've got all of that information added in, and if I hit play, it will just play it back. So that sounds pretty normal, like just a sequence that you would play back in general, but I want to do something a little bit different with this. So down here in the playback mode, I'm going to change this up to Gate Transpose. So what Gate Transpose does for me is it will drive the sequencer only when I'm actually inputting notes here on the hardware itself. So we'll make that just a little bit bigger. Now if I hit play, nothing will happen because it's just waiting for that gate signal, or any MIDI signal will work. You can do this from your DAW, or you can use any other MIDI controller that you have, or if you have the 37 key or 61 key version of Argon or Cobalt, you'll be able to do it right here. So I can drive it just by entering in those notes, and the transpose aspect of this is just referring to the fact that whatever key I press, it will transpose it to that particular key. So that's kind of an interesting way to just kind of on the fly change up what your sequences are, or if you are like me and can't play keyboard extremely well, you can just use everything you know about, C major and use the white keys, or C minor with just a couple black keys, and program it in that way, and then transpose it to whatever key you're going to be working in. So the cool thing now is that I can actually enable this ARP, and we'll reset this ARP. I can use the Arpeggiator to just drive this because it's sending out that data along with according to the clock division of the ARP itself. So let's try that. So that's pretty normal. I can do it just by holding down a key, but I want to actually program in an ARP, and I want to do something a little bit interesting. I'd like to program in some octaves and some fifths into this ARP, just to make it transpose some of these notes by those intervals to switch it up a bit. So let's do just that is fine, actually. So right off the bat, you see that step sequence is getting changed, and it's being transposed up a fifth where those fifths are being played in the ARP. You can also do this and add some rests as well. So let's do this, then a rest, and then a fifth. So you'll notice that it is not advancing where that rest would be. You're getting kind of this shuffling along, and that's because I'm playing a note and then a rest and then a note and then back to the first note. So I get those two notes in a row, and I get that rest just kind of being ignored by the sequence. So you can do some other some cool stuff by just combining, either programming in a bunch of rests and doing that across octaves, or doing it just on one octave and then holding down different octaves when you play that arp back. So I think that's a really cool way to just kind of do something a little bit different with just some sequences that you might have written already, and it's just a quick and handy way to use the programmable ARP and the arpeggiator and everything that's cool about it to just write those to sequences. I find that the ARP is usually something I'm using a lot on synthesizers, and sometimes it can be really hard to keep that in tune with everything else that's going on. So just locking that into the sequencer is a good way to capture all of that data. So since we are in Gate Transpose and I mentioned that we can use any MIDI signal to drive this, I will actually pull up my app of choice or my DAW of choice, which is Ableton. So when I come into Ableton here, I have here this MIDI going out to the Argon8, and I can do the same thing just by sending out these MIDI notes. So this one here, just in eighth notes, will sound pretty normal. But you can also program in some other things here that give it a little bit more rhythm or random rhythms, or just a little bit more complexity as well. And I'll turn the ARP off on the synth itself. So one thing I like to do in Ableton is utilize this follow action function, which basically allows me to program into these clips information that says, hey, as soon as you're done playing, launch another clip. So what I've done in here is actually just programmed in a bunch of random rhythms along with different octaves here, and I will let that actually drive the sequence itself. Let's just reset the ARP. So that is a nice way to take some of the sequences that you have written that might be pretty simple right off the bat, and actually just make them a little bit better, or kind of just draw some new inspiration from some of your old sequences. So one thing worth mentioning here, in the settings tab, you have an option to send MIDI out of the Argon or the Cobalt and include either ARP data or sequence data or both. So when I'm playing these sequences, I can also capture that right into my DAW. And if I play this again and hit record on the this MIDI channel, I will see that I can actually just record all of that data right into Ableton. So also just a good way to take some of the data that you have, or just using the arpeggiator by itself in a normal way, and capturing some of those MIDI notes that you're yielding from using this function. So you could use this to feed right back into the synth itself or another synth, or layer it with some soft synths. You can pretty much do whatever you want with it. So that is kind of all that I wanted to cover today. If you have any questions, please just leave them in the comments, and I will try my best to get back to you. All right, thank you very much.